Welcome to the Josh Hall Web Design Show. Helping you build better websites and create a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is episode 186. I'm so excited to bring to you in this episode one of my students and who's also a member of my web design club right now. This is Kayla Walters, who is an awesome freelance web designer who, for me, it's been really cool to get to know and kind of oversee her journey and see what she's doing in her business, and more importantly, what she's doing right. And she's doing a lot of things right in her business. Her web design agency is called Good Cheer Web Design. You can check her out at goodcheerdesign.com. It's actually a great example of how to have a personal branded style site under a business name that is so clear about who she serves and what she does. I can't recommend it enough. I actually featured her in my recent workshop on getting web design clients. And in this episode, I wanted to dig into how she specifically has got clients through social media. And if we go one layer back, how she does it through DMing. And if we take it one layer back even further, she's actually learned how to get clients on social media through a lot of messaging by location. So I found this fascinating because Kayla's a member of my web design club, and I've been able and fortunate recently to be able to coach her and see what she's done in her journey. We kind of found out that she has really learned a lot about what we just covered with online, getting clients online through socials, through DMs, and by this idea of like location-based groups, which is a really untapped niche kind of method of getting clients online. So for those of you who are in a big city like I am in Columbus, Ohio, we're pretty fortunate because there's a lot of in-person style networking and things we can do. There's a lot of businesses, but for those of you who are maybe in a location where there's not that many local businesses, then online groups and social media channels are the next best way to get clients. So this episode, I think you're going to take a lot of value from. Now, even if you are in a big city like I am, which I guess Columbus isn't a huge city, but we're up there. Anyway, it's still going to be it's super valuable for you. So don't think that this is just for folks who need to get clients online. I just took so much inspiration from Kayla in this episode. Again, I think you're really going to enjoy hearing how she's implemented all these strategies in her business, what's working for her. That way, you can filter it into your business today. So I'm super excited for you. I really think you're going to be inspired and get a lot of tactical and practical strategies that you can apply right now. So without further ado, we're going to dive in. And last thing I wanted to say before we do, and before you meet Kayla, is she is in my web design club. And when you join my web design club, not only do you get coaching from me regularly, and you can message me as much as you want, but you get to meet other folks like Kayla and the amazing people in my web design club. I say it all the time, and I'm not going to shy away from saying how incredible this online community is and what it's become. So I highly encourage you join. It really is such an empowering place. And again, you'll meet folks like Kayla and so many other awesome web designers all around the world to be your support system. And of course, I'll be there with you to coach you. So if you're interested, go to joshhall.co/coaching to join today. And without further ado, here's Kayla. Let's talk getting clients through social media and DMs, location-based social media, all the good things. Let's go. Kayla, welcome onto the podcast. Thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
We were just joking before we went live here that you are like a gold star student of mine because you have an awesome brand that's recently kind of revamped and redesigned. You've really gone in a really good way with personalization and personalizing your site. And I feel like you have an interesting take on marketing. And I know this chat that we're going to dive into is marketing through DMs and social media, which is so outside of the realm of my expertise, which is why I wanted to have you on to share what you've learned. So I'm really excited to kind of learn from you in this conversation. Before we dive in, do you want to let everyone know, first off, where you're based out of? And yeah, give us like the 30-second commercial when you meet somebody and they ask you what you do.
Yeah, so I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. So we're the most easterly point in North America. So we get to experience everything first here. I've lived all around the world, but I call St. John's home. and I've been here for the last 8 years now. I design websites specifically for women business owners, and specifically women who are in the growth stage of their business. So they're ready to scale, they're ready to finally like automate and streamline their businesses online. So that's what I do.
Wonderful. Now, how do you find them? And how do you find them at that point? Like, this is fascinating to me, particularly because I want to hear all about how you've built your client base, but this idea of like finding people where they are on social media, I feel like can be really tricky. So how do you do that?
So for the most part, they seem to find me at this point in my business, but mostly they're seeing what I'm doing and noticing, I need that finally. They've been in business for 4 or 5 years. They have been kind of piecemealing everything together and trying to like get through. And they're at the point in their, their business journey where they realize that they just can't manage that any longer. So, it's around that mark where I find that people are like, okay, I can finally make that investment. I know that it's going to be worth it. And that's when they, start noticing me on social media. A lot of what I get now is word of mouth, but also reshares within the community here. So it seems to kind of hit with those women at that stage in their business growth.
And do you have marketing materials or posts that you've learned to kind of like use some copywriting tips to make sure they're peaked at that interest? Like, for example, do you say like, you've been doing it too long yourself, let me help you kind of thing? Obviously not exactly like that. I'm sure yours would be much better, but is that how you find yourself attracting the people at this exact moment? Because that's really interesting.
Absolutely. It's copy like that, but also just like telling them real life examples of clients that I'm either currently working with or, just finished projects for, giving them the real breakdown of how clients used to do things and what a new website or how it's revolutionizing their day to day. And that really seems to hit home. Like those are the posts where I get a DM like 10 seconds later, be like, oh my God, yes, I need that. It's that drive that people want, to finally like solve those problems. They experience it every day. They're doing everything in 8 different inboxes, on the phone, doing everything manually. And they didn't realize that their website could do so much for them.
You just nailed it, Kayla. That is what every web designer should look for in regards to sales online. Is you want people to say, oh my God, I need that. Like that's the solution I need, or that's exactly what I'm looking to do. That is because that's the power of case studies and testimonials and sharing your work, right? Like I feel like so many people are afraid to do that. But what you've learned is a shining example of like, get your freaking work out there, share it, shout it off of a digital mountaintop, because it will attract people. And it will give them like I think for people who struggle with vision and they don't quite understand, like, how can Kayla's services help me? If you show them, like, I took this client from point A to point B, here, look at before and after, then they're like, oh, okay, now I see. Is that fair to say? Like, is that kind of what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's the specifics, the quantifiable results that, get me more clients. Every single time I launch a website and I talk about the process and the end result, my inbox, I have like 3 or 4 new inquiries every single web launch. So that's it. They want to know the specifics, because a lot of clients come to me, but they don't really know what they want, or, they know that their website is not what it needs to be, but they don't know what is possible. So when we first meet, I'm like, okay, how do you do this right now? How can we get your website to do that for you? Like, how can your website be your most valuable employee? And that's when it's just like, oh my gosh, take all my money.
Well, it's very well said. They don't know often what is possible. That's so true, because a lot of people they don't know. They're not in the industry. And a lot of folks who are busy running their businesses, they don't understand social media or websites or how it all works together. So it's our job to explain that and to give them some inspiration and show them like, hey, this worked for this client. It can work for you too. I love that. It's such a valuable marketing tip right off of the bat here. Now, I'm curious, before we dive into like tactics on DMs and sales strategies like that, bring us back to when you started growing your client base and you started as a web designer. Obviously, I know a little bit about your background, and I think we have to talk about your logo story, which is a national logo. I want to hear about that. But did you have DMs and that sales strategy in mind, or is that just how it naturally, is that how you naturally started getting clients?
Yeah, well, it happened naturally. And even though I had so many people telling me, don't do business in DMs, everything I read was just keep everything to an email, funnel everything through one space. But that just wasn't where my clients spent their time. But to kind of go backwards, I have been designing websites for over 15 years. I started in high school. I was the very first kind of pilot program of web design here in our school system. So I've been kind of dabbling for years, and I've done different iterations of the business, full-time, part-time. And I've worked with clients for about 8 years now. And I found that really you have to work with what works for them. In my experience, at least, it's that's if a client needs to phone you instead of sending you an email to your support inbox, if that's how they work best, well, that's worked for me to kind of adapt my processes as much as possible to them. And it's only been in the last year that I've really niched down to working with women entrepreneurs. And I find that flexibility really works for that niche. We have mothers, we have people who are working their business part-time, like it might be a side hustle. They might be only working on the weekends. They could have a lot that they're juggling. So having that flexibility and communicating with them where they spend their time, especially where to get the client in the first place, I found that's been a game changer.
That makes sense for sure, being that you started attracting these female business entrepreneurs who are likely really busy. And the question would be, where do they hang out? Probably Instagram. Is that the main one for you? Instagram? Are there other social media channels that you found you started connecting with your ideal clients?
82% of my clients are from Instagram. The rest are
82. That's an exact number. How are you measuring that?
I did that this morning just to be sure.
That is impressive.
Yeah. So it is the majority of my business, that and referrals from past clients. And I get a lot of repeat clients as well. So, redesigns every 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, for the most part, it's that easy, quick, reaction to an Instagram story or a comment in a Instagram post. They're in that moment and they have this feeling that, oh yeah, I want that website. So, it's so easy for them to send off a quick DM and just say, oh, how can I get a site? Or, when are you free? When do you have availability? Rather than for them to hop into an email, which they've probably already forgotten by then, or to pick up the phone.
Yeah. So there's probably a couple different layers of this. There's ongoing communication with current clients, but then there's new clients. And one thing that I found really tricky with balancing social media and getting leads was some sort of funneling system. I found myself I could not be everywhere at all times for all my different leads at a certain point because I was getting dinged on LinkedIn, Facebook. Well, that's pretty much it because I never had Insta until recently. But even those, keeping up with those on top of phone calls, emails, and anything else, it was a lot. So how do you when they're not a paying client yet and they're just a lead, a lot of people are getting referred to you. Do you have like a kind of a, I mean, you've been doing web design for a while, so I imagine you can kind of get a feel for them, but do you have an official funneling, like weed out system in place through DMs? Like, can you tell immediately whether someone's serious or not?
I'm very transparent about my pricing. So I feel like that in itself really weeds out people that aren't serious about the project. So when they do reach out to me, I do have a funnel in place. I have a message that I send to everyone that I just copy and paste in from my iPhone notes or wherever it is, that is just like, would love to, book a discovery call with you. And here's my process. So some clients will come in, or potential clients will come in and have a couple questions first, about their specific setup. I have a domain here. Can this work? But then I also have clients that are just like, oh, I really want to book a chat with you. So they already are warmed up.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if you immediately get them onto a discovery call or if you're actually like messaging back and forth, because that's where it can get really dangerous.
Yes.
If you've got 8 different people asking you questions, and then you could literally spend 8 hours a day just on your phone going back and forth and back and forth. So do you try to funnel them to a discovery call as quickly as possible?
Yes, as quickly as possible. I'll exchange like maybe 2 or 3 messages if they have like a question off the bat. But the second part of that, 4th message is, if you want to chat further about this, I'd really love to get you on a discovery call.
Okay. So it's not like an automated kickback when somebody messages you that will say, hey, it's Kayla here. Thanks for reaching out. Discovery call. So you actually, you take a more organic approach at first and then get them going.
Absolutely. And that's just my style. Mostly I'm very casual. I love getting to know my clients. So, having that personalized response at the beginning, I craft it out, but for the most part, it's just copied and pasted. It's like, would love to get to know more about what you have in mind. Let's jump on a call. And here's my intro questionnaire.
Well, I think that sets the tone for what makes a lot of sense with your setup now. Like you mentioned, you get a lot of repeat work and ongoing work, and you're setting the tone right from the get-go. Like in the very beginning, from the first, reach out to you, if it's more personal and real and casual, that sets the tone for the entire project and then a fruitful relationship that might last years, right? I think a lot of people, automation is great, especially if you're doing it at scale, but for web designers who aren't doing things at a massive business on scale, you can be more approachable and casual at first. And I think that's a really interesting point, because the way you've started gathering the leads and working on that has definitely led to your business model now, where you're booked up for a couple months as I'm talking with you right now, and you're getting a lot of repeat work, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have 100% booking rate. If somebody's booked a discovery call with me, every single person has, gone ahead and booked their project. So it's really worked for me. Don't get me wrong. I do have a very automated process once they've had their discovery call.
Gotcha.
I use HoneyBook to kind of go through that whole process of proposals and contracts and invoices and recurring payments. But, to start that relationship, it's very kind of casual. And I love, that relationship that the DMs can bring, right? That just quick one-off question or interest. And then, we can take it from there.
A very, very valuable visualization I think we just hit on, which is transparent, casual, really warm and engaging at first, and then automate. The things once they feel like, okay, I like Kayla. I feel like she could do a really good job for me. I want to work with her. Then the automation kicks in. That's great. I didn't really think about it like that, but that's a very, very, I think it's a very sound way to build a relationship that's going to last a very long time.
Yeah. So social media can do so much to build trust and awareness of who you are. But that personalization at the beginning, when you're trying to get someone to make that investment, that I find that personalization really goes a long way to building that trust and the confidence in what I can do.
Now, what about your services? Because I know we have to talk about it's actually the first story that I remember chatting with you about, which is is it the dildo brand? Is it a coffee brand? Is that what it's called? When you said that, it was so great because it's so memorable, but you had this logo design that went national, and I don't know if that helped get you clients, but yeah, let's talk about that first, and then we'll segue into your services and how you funnel these people.
Yeah. So here in Newfoundland, there's a community called Dildo, and I worked with the craft brewery that opened up there to design their logo. So that was kind of like in a past life of mine when I was like a graphic designer and a web designer. So I did the logo, and during a taping of the Jimmy Kimmel show, somebody brought it up that there was this town called Dildo, and Jimmy Kimmel had no idea that it existed and felt, ruined that he'd never heard about it before. And he said, I'm going to be the mayor of that town. So he said this great. In a post. He said this online or, in a taping, and it just snowballed. So he sent his entire crew to Dildo to do all these live hits because he had to campaign to be mayor, right? He put up all of his campaign posters. There was jokes that Matt Damon was going to run against him, this big thing.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So there just ended up being that he wore the logo that I designed on national TV. So I was pretty thrilled about that.
Yeah, your 15 minutes of fame with your dildo logo. I forgot that it was an actual town. Gosh, that is amazing. That's what the world needs right now is a funny town called Dildo. I'm sure everyone there. I don't know if they find the humor in it or if it's lost on them or if they embrace it. And
I think they've always tried not to really embrace the funny side of things.
Yeah.
But, this event just really...
My head is racing with puns, but I'll keep us on track here. I have so many branding ideas for that town.
Oh, believe me, I have a whole list, but they just didn't go with it.
That's great. Well, in all honesty, though, the reason I asked that is because you were doing logo design and stuff, and you've since refined your services, right? Are you doing any branding or logo, or are you just doing web design now?
Right now, just web design. I found it very difficult to juggle timelines when I worked on branding as well as the website. And then I would always have folks that wanted, the one-off brochure or, poster or something like that. So I've found it, it's just changed my business completely now that I'm focusing on web design, and I still get that graphic design side of things in the design elements of the sites.
Yeah, that's true. That's the beauty about going from graphic design to web design is you're still going to design. It's just going to be a little more two-dimensional. It's not going to be a flat brochure or something. But yeah, you still get your design Cheetos out when you're building websites. So I agree. Yeah. It's not like you're going from designing to like writing CSS all day. It's not the case. But it is interesting. Like, did you have challenges filtering people out when you were doing these sales through DMs and social communities when you had a bunch of services? Because I imagine that would be really challenging because you don't want to book a discovery call for somebody who wants a poster design, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's been really difficult. Ultimately what I had to do was set up a completely different business. So years ago, I had a business, it was called Mosaic Creative, where I did everything. I did the graphic design, I did marketing, I did web design, pretty much whatever people wanted to pay me for in that kind of creative realm. So in order to get away from that, the idea and, to let people know that right now I'm only doing web design, I created the whole new business model. Gotcha. So that's why I go as Good Cheer Design now.
I love the brand name. Yeah, I love Good Cheer Design. It sounds cheery. It's like, this seems nice. I'd want to work, Anytime you can set the tone for a good, happy experience, the better.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going for with the name. And originally I was working closely with like hospitality companies. So, and tourism. So it kind of, went hand in hand with that. But I feel like it works for everything, because that's very true to who I am. There's not a moment that I'm not smiling or laughing. So it works well with that personal brand.
Yeah, definitely does. Yeah, if it was good cheer design, but you're somebody who doesn't smile much, it would be a bit of a ironic style. Yeah, it would be a loss. Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious, like, how you're meeting these people on the socials. And I think it probably stems from, do you have a Facebook community, or did you have one? Can you share? Because we've talked a little bit about that. You're part of my web design club, and we've chatted a little bit, but I don't know too much about that. So what did that look like, and what was that for?
Yeah, so I currently run and I founded a Facebook group for women entrepreneurs here in the province of Newfoundland. So I started that, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago now, and it's still going. We have almost 700 members in the group. So it's a place online for people in the province to kind of share ideas just very casually. So like, what do you do for taxes? Or where can I go and get these t-shirts printed and, promo materials, or does anyone have a photographer to recommend? So it's just a way for business owners to kind of stay in contact, online.
But it's local, but it's by location, right? So it's online, but you could meet for coffee with somebody if they make a connection.
Absolutely. We've done little iterations of the networking side of things in person. We've had like coffee meetups and, one-off events and stuff like that. So that has been a great way for me to build, my niche. I know almost 700 women business owners that might eventually need a website. So it's been great. Yeah.
Well, anytime, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this. We've talked about it a couple times in the club recently. Anytime you can be a connector and you can be the one who is, even if you're not necessarily doing like big leadership trainings and stuff like that, but if you are just the one who owns the space that people hang out in and you're connecting people, there is so much trust and likability that comes with that. And that's like the best foundation for sales, because it's like, well, this is Kayla's group. Of course I trust her and might want to work with her. And then she knows a bunch of other people. There's so much power in that.
Yeah. And it works also as like a value add, because I'll meet with a client and at the end of the meeting, I'll be, are you a part of the Facebook group? So a lot of people don't know about it. So they also they join this community. So, that adds to the overall experience as well.
And does that segue into Instagram, or is that like a separate audience? How do those work in tandem together?
Yeah, so it is a completely separate group. I started it before I, niched into working with women business owners. So, it has a life of its own, but I'm very vocal in the group about being a web designer for, business owners like, my members. So, I've never really harnessed it and connected it to the business itself. And I feel like that's actually been to my benefit, because people don't see it as a salesy move. It's just a community more so than anything else.
Yeah, I've tried to have the same approach with my Divi Web Designers Facebook group. I mean, I do have on there that is a support group by joshhall.co, because the reason I did that was a lot of people thought it was a group from Elegant Themes, like it was an Elegant Themes group, but it's not. It's not affiliated. I mean, it is affiliated, but it's not, produced by them or run by them. So that's kind of one reason I made it clear who is behind this. But even because you have a personal brand style approach, I mean, your brand is good cheer design, but you have a personal aspect to that. That's a perfect way to go with that. That way it's not like, Newfoundland Women Entrepreneur Group by Good Cheer Web Design. It's not like a little commercial every time somebody sees it. So that definitely breeds that trust. Now I'm curious, your Good Cheer Web Design Insta, it's a small account, which I think this is a really good point, that you don't need to have thousands of subscribers and followers to build the life you want to live and have consistent income. Because like you've got, as of right now, I think it's more of a new page, right? The Good Cheer, because you redesigned, is it a little bit more new?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to have one for Mosaic when that was on the go. That was a little bit larger. But this one is a little bit newer. So I'm still in that building stage. But, my focus is my clients, and I have been very lucky to, be able to book back to back and everything like that. But I've never wanted social media to kind of rule my life. I've lived that world. I built an Instagram account that has over like 60,000 followers, like a travel Instagram account. And I was spending 6-7 hours a day to build that. And that's nothing compared to what some accounts are today. So, my big thing this time around was to have that healthy balance, to post when I felt it was, organic, and not follow a specific, like weekly schedule or anything like that. And, just when it felt like it needed to be done.
Yeah. Post when you feel like you should, or you need to, or want to. I love that. That's kind of the constant reminder I'm telling myself, because similarly, my Instagram is very new. At the time of recording this, like you've got 239 followers I'm looking at. I have not even 400 for my brand, but they are both new profiles. And I just wanted to mention that because I'm sure some people might be thinking, okay, Kayla's getting, a bunch of business on DM. She must have like hundreds of thousands or, tens of thousands of followers. It's not that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You can do a lot with a little, and you can get quality over quantity, which I think is so much more important nowadays with social media. It's actually interesting. I was on Jay Klaus's podcast, which is called Creative Elements, which is an awesome podcast. If you haven't checked it out, Kayla, or if anyone else listening hasn't checked it out. But he talks with a lot of creatives, some of whom have big brands, like creator brands online. And he told me after our call that he knows a lot of creators that might have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but are making like half as much as I am with my 400 followers on Instagram. That does not measure, like followers do not measure the success that you can have in your business, particularly nowadays, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, because you could spend 5, 6, 7 hours a day on Instagram and building your your following. But if those aren't converting, then it's just not paying off. The ROI just isn't there. Whereas, if you sit down and you research the hashtags that you want to use, you're using, if you have a local niche and you're using like location tags and stuff like that, then, you can get a lot of business or enough business, to be happy without having, to dedicate half your job to social media.
That's a good point. And I think a lot of people who do have bigger brands, who have a big following and who are on social media constantly, they either have stuff automated or they have a team, and the team is doing it. So they're not personally sitting there on their phone writing something out. It's a team that's doing it, which I'm actually honestly considering for myself here at some point. There's a lot of interesting takes on that with social media now and how it's evolving and where you're at, how often you're posting. I do want to ask about, because are you getting leads into your personal Instagram as well, and then funneling those through Good Cheer, or how does that work?
So they all come through Good Cheer.
Okay.
Yeah, my personal Instagram, I only have time to really work on one. And I also have an account for my dog. So that takes up enough time.
That's the one that will get the most followers for sure.
Yes, I always have to have Gus in whatever I do. He's quite cute. He gets lots of likes, and that's all that matters. Yeah.
Oh, he is a little cutie. I know. The one post you did where he's like in front of you. Yeah, it's on your Instagram, little Gus. He's the star of the show. That's for sure.
Yeah, it just, adds to the whole personal brand. He's always running around here in the office, so I make sure that everyone gets to meet him. And, it's just part of who I am. I'm, a full-time dog mom just as much as I'm a full-time business runner. Well,
I feel bad that he can't make it on the podcast. You said you took him to daycare, so it'd be quiet, but just, dogs are always welcome on the show for sure.
Yes, well, future ones he'll definitely
for the next
be around.
One. Yeah, I want Gus to make an appearance for sure. Because I was just curious if you had a personal personal Instagram that is, you're still getting business through. Because that was another struggle that I had personally. Is I had my In Transit Studios Facebook, and I was getting dinged left and right in my personal Facebook, and I was like, here, go over here. Or ideally, go to my website, which is why I just didn't care personally for the DM route, but my target demographic, my best clients, that generally wasn't the way they were going. They weren't coming through DMs like my best clients. Most of them were through networking or through relationships or referrals. But again, your kind of ideal customer, they are there. So like you said, you got to meet them where they are and then provide for them, serve them, give them some inspiration. You mentioned hashtags. I'd love to talk about hashtags because I am elderly in the online world. I'm 35. I just don't get it. I don't understand hashtags. I've never really, because I've never clicked on them myself. Like I've never looked at a hashtag and be like, oh, who else is posting this hashtag? It's just, I don't care. It's not my thing, but obviously a lot of people do. So how does that work? You mentioned like researching hashtags. Is that a good way that you recommend growing your brand and getting out there on social media?
So this might be outdated now. I'm probably aging myself too, because I am older than you, Josh. I didn't know
Are
that.
You really? No kidding.
Yeah. But what I learned like a few years ago is to use a mixture of like local hashtags, hashtags that, have probably like 10,000 to 30,000 posts using that, but also like a few, like maybe 4 or 5 larger hashtags. So, in the millions.
So it's kind of like keyword research. You do one that's
absolutely.
like a big one, a broad one, and then one that's a little more like long tail, keyworded, or it doesn't have as much competition.
Yeah, that's actually the analogy I use when I'm talking about search engine optimization with all my clients. So my clients understand Instagram because they're like, their Instagram game is amazing, but they don't understand SEO. So I do make that kind of connection that it's very similar. I could be wrong now. There's stuff going around that says you only use 5 hashtags, whereas generally like my kind of old school thought was to use like 30, use all of them. Because, more chance of getting seen. But yeah, the sweet spot seems to be like local, if you work locally. Like I use all of like Atlantic Canada, but also like hyper local to here in Newfoundland. And that like kind of sweet spot for the middle range of hashtags, like, web designer life rather than web designer, right? Just being a little bit more specific because I find that that works really well. Or just like,
dang it. Now I feel like I'm going to have to start using hashtags. I've never used any hashtags on my stuff. Now I feel like web designer life would make a lot of sense for my brand.
Yeah. So those are the ones I use for like, the kind of behind the scenes posts when I want people to see what it's like, in this job. But then I'll like, obviously if that's not who I'm targeting, if I'm launching a website and I want local folks to see that, I'm going to load it with as many local hashtags as possible. So I do have like this is terrible. I don't use any of the social media apps. I just have a note in my phone. I old school it, and I have just collections of hashtags that I copy and paste in anytime I make a post.
You know what? Since we're both elderly in social media realm, it still works. Like the tried and true methods still work. And then the idea of like 30 hashtags versus 5, I guess that would make sense because that's kind of how SEO is going. Like you don't want to overload a page with keywords like you could in 2010. And now it's a little more succinct. Like don't overwhelm Google. There's too much for it to find. It needs to know exactly what it's looking for, kind of thing. So that would make sense that social media is headed that way as well. But by golly, if it works, like keep doing it. Obviously it's working. So,
but that's it. Like I'm not a social media manager or anything like that. So I feel like I'm getting, piecemeal pieces of, information from Facebook pages or other groups that I'm in. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges of, running your own business is trying to stay up on all these other trends in marketing when, that's not your background. It's like,
So for people who have a smaller profile like we do in the way of like followers, how do you feel that Like, do you think that could deter people? And as opposed to seeing somebody with thousands of followers. And the reason I ask this is because it's extremely timely. At the time of recording this yesterday, I was on Pat Flynn's podcast for the second time, and I tagged him on Instagram. So I do know how to tag and mention somebody.
That's good.
And then he shared it. He shared it on his profile, which is,
Right.
I mean, Pat's got almost 100,000 followers. So, but I kind of wondered, what does that look like when Pat Flynn shares something and then they go to my profile and they're like, oh, this Josh guy doesn't even have like 400 followers. Is he brand new at Instagram, or is he just not quite who I thought he was going to be? Because a lot of people don't know that I have like 2.5 million views on YouTube. It's right. Like some of my different platforms, when you don't do them at the same time, they don't necessarily stack up next to each other in the same way with number. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that hinders, or is that still okay that people find you if you just started? Because the reason I asked that is I'm sure a lot of people are like, am I late? Am I late to the Instagram game?
Hey, we all have to start somewhere, like and if we don't do it, then, we never know what is going to happen. We might be missing, a lot of opportunities if we don't start. So I think, whatever number we have is, all that we can do at this point. I don't know if it really affects, somebody's opinion of you. I think that, your post should, speak for that. If you're sharing a website that you've done, that's what's going to resonate with people, not so much that, only 200 people follow you. That doesn't speak to your engagement either. Your
that's
follows,
true. Yeah.
That's a number that's invisible. So, you could have 200 followers, but have an amazing engagement rate because those people are, really engaged with what you're posting. So, and that's really what matters. And I guess it really ultimately depends on what kind of business you're trying to build at the end of the day. If you're trying to build an empire, then, you have to have the numbers on social media. That just seems to be the connection that I'm seeing. But, if you just want enough, web projects to get you booked through the year, you probably don't need 1 million followers. So I personally, I'm not ashamed of my 230 some odd followers. I've worked hard to get all of them. And, I like knowing that I know most of them. Actually, I've had conversations with them. So, that it's all about your brand and, the business that you ultimately want to run.
That's so well said. That was a perfect little snippet of that. The difference between like having 1 million followers versus like, if you don't need 1 million clients, you don't need 1 million followers. Like, yeah, if you're an influencer and you're making your money by products, sales, or like referrals, affiliates and stuff like that, you need a big audience. But if people are paying you $4,000 or $5,000 for a project, you don't need a huge audience to make 6 figures. So that's definitely the route that you've gone. This is great because it's kind of like a case study of how to do it on a smaller level, like social media on a smaller, manageable level. Maybe that's the new title for this episode, because it really, I hope this makes people feel better, like it is for me, that you don't have to post every day, nonstop, super structured, because then you do spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day on Instagram, easy. Because you can spend, a quarter of that just scrolling. So if you're actually intentionally working on it, then it's next thing you know, that's your day job.
Yeah. And Instagram shouldn't be your business. It can be fun too. Like I just spent, a half hour going through little Instagram reels that other business owners are posting. And all I do is like them, just showing, you show up in their likes feed and they might see your name, just keeping engaged as much as possible with, your followers and, your community.
That's good.
It's just little things Obviously, if we do this again next year, I could have a completely different approach. I might be, this time for agency life. So I have to, I need 20,000 more followers or something like that. But, at the stage that I'm in now, still in that startup life, it's what's working. And I know I have to do more in terms of information posts. That's my big focus now. And the spring is getting more information across to my clients about how long it takes to build a website. How soon in advance should people be, inquiring? Because that's the biggest question I get. And so just a little stuff about, what it takes to work with me. So there's lots of things that you can do on Instagram, but it just doesn't have to, take up hours and hours of your day every day.
So are you going more of an organic approach overall with the type of content versus like showing off work versus information versus puppy pictures versus thought type of, because that's kind of one thing I'm kind of trying to work out too, is I'm doing some stuff that's just fun. And just like last week on a Monday, we took the girls swinging, and I just posted that because it was like a fun Monday post versus like, hey, I'm doing a webinar this week. So I'm trying to like have a good balance, because I've tended to not post the personal stuff, but the more and more I've been encouraged actually by a lot of folks in the club. I think you've met Lisa Breed from who's out in South Africa, and she's a big time, branding gal. And she kind of encouraged me to just keep it casual, like post the fun stuff that isn't even work related, just to give people a peek of what's going on outside of, behind the computer. So I think that was a really good, and that was when she was on the podcast a little while back. It was a really good like reminder to have the personal stuff, even if it's out of your element. Cause a lot of people aren't the posters. They don't want to share. They just want to creep and they just want to watch. But if you're building a business, you've got to get yourself out there. You don't have to be an influencer, but you do have to get yourself out there. At least that's what I found.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially if, your brand is personal, that I feel like goes hand in hand. If I love sharing stuff about, my personal life, I'll, go to a craft brewery and post a picture there, if I'm there with my laptop or something like that, or just a, Saturday afternoon. But it shows my clients to who they're working with. And I think it builds trust and awareness of who we are as people. And I got in the business and, worked for myself for the flexibility and, all the adventures that can come along with that. So, I like my clients knowing that that's important to me, like work-life balance and, having fun just as much as, getting down to business. So.
Well, you said it. I think the more you open up about who you are and your interests, that's going to attract the type of people who you probably want to work with. They may not be exactly the same, but particularly for you, you have a brand that is attracting women business owners who probably want to be like-minded towards you, and they want to work with somebody who has similar value sets or ideas and approaches. So it makes a lot of sense that goes a long way. I know. Funny enough, more recently, I've noticed that there's a lot more hockey fans coming into my courses. Like, a lot of people will tell me I'm a huge hockey fan. And you are as well. Like, because I've said that a lot, I think that could potentially be bringing people in who are like, oh, Josh likes hockey too. Or they just know to bring it up because they know I'm a hockey guy as well, even though I'm wearing a baseball t-shirt right now. Yeah. I almost wore a Blue Jacket shirt too on this one. Dang it.
Oh, well, I should have worn my Habs shirt. We're very big hockey people out in Canada, obviously. So
obviously.
That's my big stereotype.
How far are you from Montreal?
It's about an hour and a half or 2 hour flight. So it is quite a little bit further than like Halifax or Nova Scotia.
Gotcha.
But a lot of my family are in Montreal, so I spend a good bit of time there.
I always forget that everything in Canada is by increments of like multiple hours. Like in the States, I could drive to Cincinnati in an hour and a half. In Canada, it's like one town, then it's like, oh, it's about 8 hours to the next town. We'll just do a quick drive.
Yeah. Well, like here in Newfoundland, everything is an island. So we have to fly everywhere or take a ferry to the mainland. Gotcha. So everything is in flight time for us.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I honestly never really looked at it at the map. So after this, I'm totally going to look at that, like where it is in relation to everything. Cause look, and here's another interesting point. I didn't even think about this, but where you are in the world, like online community and online ways of getting clients is probably crucial. I mean, you have that local based Facebook group, but Are your clients, I don't know if you've mapped out the percentages, but I'm going to challenge you on this because you already gave me a detailed percent before, but like what percent of your clients would you say are just outside of your local-ish area? Like, are they all over the world? Are they mostly in Canada? Are they stateside?
I would say 90% are like hyper local here in Newfoundland.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm still working through this client base here. This is, where I have my all my connections, and then branching out into kind of Atlantic Canada. So you're the East Coast, but I do have clients, on the West Coast of Canada as well. But the majority, like I've mentioned this before in our web design group, like the word of mouth, like referral basis here is unbelievable. So, we're such a very tiny community of, like, our capital city has 250,000 people.
But it's a big area, right? Like,
oh yeah. Newfoundland is the size of the British Isles.
Oh my gosh. I'm looking at, it's like the size of almost Texas as I'm looking at the map. Like,
yes,
okay,
it's
so
also size.
forgive my ignorance. I thought Newfoundland was much closer to Montreal. I thought it was outside of like New Brunswick. I didn't realize it was way up there. Like, my gosh, is it Arctic up there all year? You're not far outside of like freaking Greenland.
Yeah. That's actually probably closer to us than Montreal. Maybe.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah. It's generally very cold. Like, after this, I'm hoping that I get to go iceberg hunting. So that's a big thing here in the spring is we have lots of icebergs, and that's our biggest tourism draw. So that's something, if you're listening and have no idea where Newfoundland is, that you should look that up.
This is fun. We're doing a live case study on where Newfoundland is, or Newfoundland. That's how you say it, right?
Yes.
Because it's spelled Newfoundland, but of course that's not right. I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Jason Momoa used to lived here because he was taping a TV show here, and he explained it really well on a talk show. It's called Newfoundland, like, understand. That's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Newfoundland. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I really did not realize how far up there you were on the edge of Canada there. So
yeah. So,
this is why people tune into the podcast. It's web design lessons, it's inspiration, and it's geography looking into, because I definitely did not realize that. It's interesting.
Well, geography is a big part of my business, or like, the reason that I've been successful in my business. So we have a very unique kind of business ecosystem here. There's not a whole lot of people doing what I'm doing locally. I could probably count them all on my two hands.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's been really helpful, and good to know, kind of, if you're comparing apples to apples.
That is a good point, and empowering for social media too. If you are in an area where, maybe it's not as densely populated, but you're one of the only ones who are doing that service, then you've got an immediate edge. Like in Columbus, Ohio, it's booming. I couldn't even tell you how many people are doing digital media services or web design. So while there's a lot of opportunity, there's way more competition. Whereas where you are, like you said, there might be a dozen, maybe less, who are doing exactly what you're doing. So you've already got a huge edge on them.
Yeah. And I'm the only one working solely with women entrepreneurs. So, that's an edge on itself. But I started living in a rural community of 5,000 people. So, if I guess the big takeaway is, if you're listening to this and you're in a small community and, you're thinking about making the plunge into web design, and you're the only one that would be offering that service anywhere close to you, then it's a great business to be in. And it's, because so many people need a website and need somebody to help them do it.
Yeah, no, that's so well said. Gosh, Kayla, this has been really cool. This has been awesome. I mean, really, we instead of diving into just DMs, we talked about that. We really talked about social media as a whole. So this has been really, I think, interesting and inspiring too, because again, I think the moral of the story is you don't need a massive brand on social media, particularly as as a web designer, you don't need that many clients if you do it right. You shouldn't be getting new clients all the time. It's more about connecting and and keeping them coming back. And then you can do social media as much as, or as little as you want, right? Like that's not the name of the game isn't a post every day and try to get 10 new clients every day. It's post whenever it feels organic and then get a client or two a month. And then you can be booked up for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just price yourself right. And post what feels good and, when you want to. And I think the rest kind of comes along.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I have one final question for you, but before we get to that, where would you like everyone to go to check it out? Obviously, your website is goodcheerdesign.com, but I imagine you're cool with plugging your Instagram since we've been talking about
Yes.
that, right?
Yeah, I'm at Good Cheer Web on Instagram, so you can check me out there.
Check Kayla out and check out Gus.
Yes,
who made
Gus wants the love.
Yeah. So I'm about 7 weeks out on podcast episodes. So it's gonna be a little while before this comes out, but when it does, maybe you can do a couple more posts of Gus. That way it's fresh in the feed. I'll let you know when this goes live.
Sounds great.
So last question for you. If you could give someone who is introverted by nature and has a problem getting out there, what would you, maybe not challenge them to do, but what would you encourage them if they know they got to get out there, but they're introverted and they just feel like, it's so against my nature to put myself out there. What would your encouragement be to them?
Just start small. Maybe behind the scenes posts. So like little Instagram stories of what your office looks like, the more personal side of things. So you don't necessarily need to have your face in the posts. A lot of my stories, I don't do a lot of like talking to the camera. Just share, what it's like from you working. Or like what it's like around your day to day. Just start small because you have, start somewhere. And, the comfort level I find comes from that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's good advice. Start small and then just be real and keep it organic. I would say that way you don't feel like, I got to create like this huge set of like to-dos or like how-tos or these like information posts that can be really overwhelming. And I think that paralyzes people who are afraid to get out there, especially if they're new. It's like, I don't know that much. I don't feel like I know that much. I don't want to share anything. But if you're just a little more organic and real about the approach, it still gives people a chance to meet you and know who you are. So
and that goes hand in hand with like DMs as well, just kind of have a conversation with people. That's why they're reaching out to you and build trust that way. And then funnel them into your more professional, workflow after that kind of relationship has started to build.
That's my favorite takeaway from this talk is organic and real and personable at first, then automate once you get them into your system, your funnel. I love that. That's definitely what's sticking with me here. So, and of course we had a geography lesson. Now I finally know where Newfoundland is. So
great. And you can say it well. That's great.
And I can finally say it, which is a massive win for this podcast. So awesome. Well, Kayla, this has been super fun. Thank you so much for your time and for chatting. Again, definitely, I don't think will be the last time. I'm excited to see where your business goes. Again, you've been it's been just really, really cool since you came into our web design club and I got to know you better, to see your business grow and to see all the changes you've made and implemented, and you're booked out and you're doing such a great job with balancing the lifestyle you want to live, but also growing your business and doing it organically and at the pace and level you want. So hats off to you for really you're like the tagline of this podcast, building a lifestyle you love and you want to live doing web design. Well, that was not the tagline, but you know what I mean? You're living it. You're like the prime example of how to do it right. So
well, really thanks to you. I half the reason I took this plunge in doing it full time is listening to this podcast. So, it's, I took it to heart, you live the lifestyle you want to lead. So that's what I'm doing.
There it is. You said it better than I wrote it. I'm curious. I was going to ask you this after we got done recording, but we'll just keep rolling here. How did you find the podcast? Did you know of my brand previously, or were you just searching web design?
I believe that I knew your brand from the Facebook group. Obviously, I'm big into Facebook groups, but I'm also a huge podcast nerd. So I'm constantly looking through like explore feeds and, business podcasts. And one day yours popped up. So I was like, oh, this is Kismet. It's great.
Awesome. Oh, that's so cool. I'm so interested in to hear how people come to find out about the podcast. So yeah, appreciate that. Awesome, Kayla. We'll keep at it. Definitely excited to see how the business evolves. And then not close by, but by golly, I would love to have an in-person meetup for everyone in the club. So hopefully we can do that, even though it's global. We'll have to have a lot of flights coming in. We'll make it a big weekend or something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, deal. All right. Thanks again, Kayla.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey guys and gals, just wanted to pop in with a couple things before you head out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other web designers find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to joshhall.co, click on podcasts, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.